Deshaun Watson, hard to believe, right? His 11-game suspension now is over.
His debut is happening. Yes,
his debut coming up this Sunday. He will start for the Browns. He's paid his, dues, the 11 games, paid $5 million, because of his sexual assault, as the league defined it. And he will be back and suiting up to lead the Cleveland Browns. Who they playing this week? They got
the Texans.
They're
in,
That's right, in his old stomping grounds. Wow.
It's in Houston,
Texas,
yeah.
Where he used to play, of course. And Rob, he spoke today for the first time, since in months. And he's been practicing with the team. He's been in films and all that. So he should be ready. And the players are talking very excitedly about him. But here's what he said today, Rob. He didn't say much. Here's part of it.
Your agreement with the league was to undergo counseling and therapy while you were away. What did you learn about yourself during that time? And how do you apply that to now and going forward?
I respect your question, I understand, but that's more in that phase of clinical and legal stuff. And, I've been advised to, stay away from that and keep that personal.
Well, Rob, he didn't talk about any questions outside of football. As you heard, he said that repeatedly. What are your thoughts?
Mistake. Whoever's handling him, it's a bad mistake. And if he thinks he's going to run away from it and never address it, he's wrong. And reporters will keep asking it, Chris, until it takes – I don't understand. Like, these teams have PR people, Chris, they're multi-billion-dollar companies, and they don't understand how the media works. Hey, Deshaun, we got to have one press conference, stay in the room, answer everybody's question until they're done, and then you're done. And then they can't ask you another question about this. And from here on out, Chris, it'll be about football. It's so simple. You know that, Chris. You've been in the business. You know how journalists work. I mean, it's not a Deshaun Watson thing. This is how it works.
No, I agree. And we said the same thing with Kyrie. And now he's not getting questions about this anymore.
Yes.
Once he dealt with it, and it took him a while. But once he did deal with it, and when he came back, he went on, with a local media person, had a 21-minute interview and addressed situations.
Ian Begley, he did a great job.
Ian Begley, yep. And then, and that now it's just about basketball for the most part. Somebody may ask him here or there, and look, Deshaun on Sunday, Rob, because I'm sure you've seen, several of the accusers are going to go to the game. He's going to obviously be asked about it then. I get my assumption, Rob, is he'll take this same tact, but he's going to be asked about it again. But I do agree with you. And he could have come out it doesn't. I mean, there's only really one thing for him to say, right? He comes, look, I did go through, counseling, and it was good. I learned a lot about myself. I certainly won't be in any situations like that again. I mean,
I hope I'm a better person for going through this, and I went through it.
You have to say, I don't think you have to do the soul search. You've already done the soul searching. And so I think he could have handled. He seemed like he was comfortable. He moved, he didn't answer the questions. But to your point, they're going to keep being asked until he deals with it. And so I do think today would have been a good day to deal with it. And then he's, like I said, he's going to have to handle it Sunday. If he dealt with it today, Rob, plays well on Sunday, and he's asked about the women and he answers the question.
All done.
Fairly. Yeah, then he can move on and it would be football. But as long as he doesn't deal with it, that's just going to kind of be the elephant in the room.
And Chris, as reporters, there's people who they're going to keep asking until hoping that he breaks through. That one day he just says, okay, you know what? And or somebody pulls him aside, Chris, and they get an exclusive.
Well, you wonder if they may do, because sometimes, as you know, players will do that. They'll get a media person they have a relationship with, and they'll do it. So maybe I don't know if it doesn't seem like that's his plan.
No,
it seemed like
I
he just
agree with
didn't-
you. I
didn't wanna
agree.
Address it.
Yeah, but it's a mistake, and it's just a mistake because they're not going anywhere. And once you give them, Chris, it's hard for them. Like you say, you go, give them all the information, right? Answer all the questions, and then say, "Okay, guys, we good? You got all the questions?"
Right. And that actually endears you somewhat to the media
Right.
too, because
Hey,
you dealt
can-
with it. Look, guys, we cool. All right, let's move on.
Exactly.
Like Kevin Durant, when he came out early in the season, right, and said, "Look, I'm gonna deal with the trade situation."
And he talked
answered all
about
the
it,
questions.
answered all the questions, Chris. That's
Yep.
it.
And
It's
that's
over.
it. Then he did it on his own with was it Chris Haynes, or he did another interview, but that was his choice.
Right.
To do it on his own. But yeah, and then so he's not really answering questions about that
And
anymore, and it's kind of off the radar now.
people forget about that,
Right.
Chris. I mean, like he wasn't coming back. The Nets were a mess, and now they're 12-11, and the season is rolling on. Like
Right.
That's where they are. And here's the other thing. From his standpoint, if you do that, I think you're right. You have people look at you a little different. Hey, he didn't duck, he didn't hide, he talked about it. You write that story about where he is mentally and what he went through, and
Yep.
and then you can, your bosses or your editors aren't saying, "Did you get Deshaun?" Or,
Right. Because they're
that-
gonna be on you till somebody gets him.
and until somebody gets him, and then you're
Yep.
like, the whole time you feel like, well, I gotta ask, because if I don't ask this time,
Yep.
and then somebody pulls him aside next, I'm gonna be the one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Out in the
Yep.
cold
That's
with
true.
nothing. So you feel compelled every press conference to wind up saying something. So they need help with dealing with the media and how this thing goes. There's a way of dealing with it, Chris.
Do you have any issue with him playing? I mean, will you feel funny watching him, or where you at on that?
He's served his penance, I should say, Chris. And there's a lot of people who have done way worse.
Right.
Who
That are playing.
that are playing, that are working again, in society. So I'm not one of
Right.
those people that think like, if it was that bad, he'd be in prison and there would be no conversation. It wasn't like that.
Well, it was thrown out. Two courts,
Right.
failed to prosecute.
So
Yeah,
so no, I'm not in that camp.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And if people
he's-
decide that they don't want to root for him, Chris, I respect that too.
Right, you can do what you want. Well, and as I said, Rob, several of the accusers will be at the game. And the lawyer, of course, Tony Busby, who, was representing them, he said some of the women, they don't even want to ever hear his name mentioned again.
Right. They've lived it. They're
Others,
done.
right. Others are going to the game. They want to go to the game. I don't know. It'll be interesting because I mean, the only reason I can think possible, Rob, that they want to go to the game is to make some sort of
Statement.
spectacle. I mean, really, yeah, statement. Like, why? I'm sure they don't want to go and watch him. They might be the biggest football fans in the world, but I'm sure they don't want to go to watch him play. And so I don't know what they'll do, but it's certainly their right. But that's surprising to me that they're going to the game.
Well, mostly because the Texans are playing, and nobody in Houston wants to go to the Texans play.
They got good seats.
They
Right?
they got a section to themselves, Chris. That's why they're at the game.
Man.
I'm with you. I don't think if I was involved in a traumatic situation, I don't think I'd want to spend any time or dealing with that dude anymore. I mean, really.
And people deal with trauma differently, so I get it.
You're
But
right.
I don't think there's a statement like I don't think they're going to be able to make a statement, Rob, that's gonna really be disruptive and take over the game. Unless it's like hundreds of people with them. You know what I mean?
What do you expect? I mean, they probably will sell out. I mean, they're not selling tickets down there. I was in Houston a couple of weeks ago, Chris, and I was there. And
You went to the game?
No,
Texas game?
I was in. I went to that Warriors Rockets game that night.
Right.
But they had a Texans were playing, and my friends down there, all of them, when I said, hey, you guys want to go to the game, football game too? Do a double header?
Right.
No, we're not interested. No, like they had no interest.
Yeah.
But they'll probably be a sellout or a big crowd because this is their chance to get their licks in on him because he didn't want to be there. So it's natural for fans to want to boo a guy who didn't want to be a part of your
Who
city.
was so great.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Rob, how we've talked about it before. A team can go decades without getting a franchise quarterback.
Right. So they're not
And
going to
now
be
you
happy
get
about
one,
it.
and he demands his way out. But that's the thing. And again, the accusers, God bless them, they can do what they want. But it's already going to be very anti-Watson. That I don't think they're going to, and maybe, I mean, again, I don't know. I can't imagine they just want to go see him. But maybe they're like, look, everybody's going to be booing him, right? It's going to be nasty treatment of him, and we want to be a part of that. So maybe that's it. But I don't think they're going to stand out, unless it's a ton of them.